Brian Wilson, Mary Catherine Ham, Brian Neiman, today's newsmakers, and you, the Morning Majority. 105.9 FM, AM 630. WMAL.
7:07 on the Morning Majority. We're talking about Iowa. And when you talk about Iowa, we want to get someone who really knows the state. So how about a fifth-generation Iowan who is now Iowa GOP chairman? Matt Strawn, how's it going?
Hey.
Oh, Merry Caucus Day.
Merry Caucus Day to you. Let me ask you a little bit about the weather. We're actually watching the TV in here, watching Shannon Bream on Fox News. Look like she's freezing her little tail off out there. What is the weather like, and how does that impact what happens tonight?
Well, it is no question it's going to be rather cold tonight, but the important part is there's no snow, there's no ice forecast for anywhere in the state. And when you have a rural state like Iowa, and we've got an elderly population too that traditionally caucuses so long as the road conditions aren't too bad. So it keeps me optimistic that we're going to have a strong turnout. At least weather won't be any impediment to folks getting out at 7 o'clock Central tonight. Any
idea about certainly independents and Democrats who come out and register as Republicans in order to caucus is going to make a big difference in whether Ron Paul places quite high? Any idea about how weather impacts them? If it's more icy, do those dedicated folks for Ron Paul get out, or do you lose some folks because it's cold? Well, I think one thing we've seen here in Iowa with Congressman Paul, there's no question that his supporters, there's an intensity that I think even if they had to rent a dog sled to get to their local precincts, they would make it there. But I expect we're going to have a strong turnout. We've seen 33 straight months of Republican registration gains in Iowa. We had the second largest straw poll in the party's history this past August. And if you're a Republican or somebody that's not happy with what's going on in Washington, this is the first chance anybody in the country has had to cast a vote to start replacing Barack Obama.
All right, Matt, let me play devil's advocate for just a moment, though. How many people do you expect will actually be involved in the caucus? 120, 150,000?
Yeah, 4 years ago, we had just under 120,000, which was the record turnout for Republicans on caucus night. So I would not be surprised to see us north of that number tonight.
Well, and I don't mean to be rude here, because we love the great state of Iowa. We love the people of the state of Iowa, and we thank them for the corn that they grow and all the good things they do there. But should 120,000 people have such an important say in this process?
Well, when I look at what the caucus process is, those 120,000, or hopefully a little bit more tonight, they're making an investment in the process. They're gathering with their friends and their neighbors. This isn't a primary where you just run in, cast a vote, and run back out and get on with your day. But you actually need to invest 60 to 90 minutes, talk about the issues of the day with your neighbors. And quite frankly, I think we need a little more grassroots politics like that in our national dialogue. I mean, at a time you have more and more Americans feel disconnected from their leaders in Washington, I think it's a good system. And from a representative standpoint, even though we're first, we're not necessarily designed to be the predictor, but there are very few things Barack Obama and George W. Bush have in common. The one thing they do is their path to the White House started by winning the Iowa caucuses.
Do you think it's too early? I mean, it was a feeling there. I mean, it's the day after. Well, I know it wasn't New Year's yesterday, but it feels like it was because it was a federal holiday. A lot of people are getting back to work. They had maybe the week off. Does it feel too early? Are people enthused to go out and actually vote tonight and gather and talk about all of this stuff?
Well, as you know, had it not been for our friends down in the Sunshine State, we'd be doing this on February 6th.
Yeah.
But when they upset the calendar, we had no choice but to move up. And we did this 4 years ago on January 3rd, so Iowans are getting used to it, trying to balance their Christmas shopping with ducking campaign ads and candidate visits. But we're ready to go. We've got 1,774 volunteer-led precincts tonight, and I think Iowa Republicans are ready to get this process started. Had a chance to hit 4 different candidate events yesterday, and great enthusiasm. But the other thing that's for your listeners to watch tonight, there's still a tremendous amount of uncertainty on which candidates will earn a vote of an Iowan. I'd say 2 out of every 5 Iowans are telling pollsters right now they could still change their mind sitting right there in the caucus room tonight.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. How does that compare to years past? Have they been more solidly decided? For instance,
they have been. And, in the years past, it's been more of a binary choice. Maybe who the top 2 will be, and there's just some drama there. But here, perfect example, yesterday morning I'm at a Rick Santorum event in Polk City, and 2 of the first 3 questioners prefaced their question by saying, hey, I'm one of those undecided voters, convince me. And then they ask their question. And, what your listeners need to realize, hear people talk about the importance of organization in Iowa, every one of those 1,774 precincts will have someone stand up on behalf of a candidate tonight. And who a campaign chooses to have stand up and advocate for them, a local community leader, a member of the clergy, that's going to be vital in closing that sale for these candidates. So
and,
really, the best organized campaigns are going to have that tonight.
And you mentioned ministers. Rick Santorum is said to be getting a lot of support from the evangelical community. He's come out of nowhere. What do you think about his chances?
I think Senator Santorum has an excellent opportunity to surprise some folks tonight. There's no question that he has effectively been living in Iowa. When I get up in the morning, I half expect to see him at my breakfast table. He's been here so often. But also, it's interesting as he's here, I think most folks recognize Senator Santorum for his leadership on those social conservative issues, of course, that attract, the evangelical vote here in Iowa. But the other argument he's making is he's making an electability argument here on the fact that he beat a sitting Democrat member of Congress. He's beaten a sitting Democrat member of the U.S. Senate. He talks a lot about his manufacturing plan to create jobs. So even though, he's known for some of those social issues, top of mind for Iowans is still finding someone that can beat Barack Obama next November.
And on that,
remember, this is a swing state. This is one of 6 or 7 states that may determine who the next president is.
And on the point of electability, though, you got Ron Paul doing very well. His supporters are ardent; they will turn out. And there are some who say that at the end of the day, the state of Iowa may go for Ron Paul. The caucuses may go for Ron Paul. And I could give you a list of people as long as my arm, and trust me, I have very long arms, who say that Ron Paul is unelectable.
Well, you have to look, if you were here in Iowa and saw the messaging coming from the Paul campaign, it is all about reducing spending in Washington. It is all about that $15 trillion debt. The ads he's running here are phenomenal. They're ads you think they're trying to sell you a Ford F-150, not a politician, because they're so engaging. And he's talking about $1 trillion cut the first year in spending and shutting down 5 agencies. So I hope folks in Washington don't dismiss the message that is motivating Iowans here when they see Congressman Paul, and it's one that's about reducing spending. And I think you even see that with Mitt Romney's final ad here in Iowa, where he talks about how reducing the debt is a moral responsibility. So I think the lesson to take away is those issues related to debt, spending, the economy, even in a place like Iowa that is still doing relatively good relative to the rest of the country, that's still what the voters want to hear.
Yeah, you keep reading my mind, Matt. I was going to ask about the unemployment rate, which is lower than many other states, thank goodness. How does that matter in how folks are responding to messages and how campaigns are crafting them? Is it less emphasis on jobs per se and maybe more on debt?
I think that's exactly what you're seeing. We're just under 6% unemployment here. The agriculture industry has been booming. Commodity prices are high. But the concerns folks have here are those more long-term looming financial obligations. So when they see the $15 trillion debt, think about before the straw poll last August, both Michelle Bachmann and Ron Paul, their ads they ran in Iowa were highlighting their opposition to increasing the debt ceiling. So we've really seen that debt debate kind of drive the issues motivating voters going all the way back to the summer here in Iowa.
All right, Matt, great to have you on, and Merry Caucus Night for sure.
Yeah.
Appreciate you getting up early.
You can follow along real-time results, iowagop.org.
All right.
iowagop.org. All right.